Hey guys, Garrett Oyos here. Uh, I really am glad that you are watching this right now. Feel free to continue if any of this stuff sounds interesting. I failed to record the first part of the Zoom meeting that we had, and so I just wanted to make sure that I kind of re-recorded a little bit of the stuff that we talked about for a few minutes at the start. Essentially, it's just the future of computer graphics. It's different than maybe what you think. And I want to make sure that I am giving enough value back to the people who need it most. And I think there's just so much hope right now during this time. There's so many opportunities to innovate and to collaborate in ways that maybe aren't thought of in under normal circumstances. And so there are a lot of companies out there who need artists to help out, and kind of the direction that I think the industry is going. A lot of what we're talking about, at least during this meeting, is in regards to VR. Uh, so virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. It's kind of the umbrella term is XR. I believe that a lot of the future of computer graphics has to do with this spatial computing model and cloud computing, and essentially removing the need to have expensive hardware that's coming really soon. Another thing that we talked about, just the ability for an artist to create very rapidly using the new tools that exist. And I think a lot of it was kind of from what I've learned over the last year in regards to esports and the entertainment industry, as far as collaboration with brands and influencers. This is a whole new ball game where these bigger studio models, go into these bigger studios. It might not be as appealing to go there anymore as like it used to. And so I think there's some really great opportunities for artists now. And I think we can all take advantage of that and serve people to the best of our abilities. And let's see, I touched on uh, 3D avatars, which are coming. The virtual economy is going to be huge. Opportunities for kind of nerds. I consider myself one, to get in and create a new blockchain-based economy. I don't think we talked too much about that in this, but more on that probably soon. And I think that there's just incredible opportunities to really dive in and learn as much as you can about what's coming with this industry. Really, there's jobs out there. You can go and get the standard job. Don't give up. But I think that there's some new exciting things going on, and I invite you to be a part of it. So enjoy this. It's kind of gonna start off with Daniel talking. He's an animator at Disney, and he's been working with VR software. So it's going to kind of cut in just when I hit record. So I apologize, but hope you enjoy.
We time it. We time ourselves, and we try to figure out what's really faster, to pose a character using VR controls with your hands, or do the same exact pose with the same rig, the same character, but in Maya with your mouse and keyboard. And it's just definitely so much faster in VR. This is, I would say, like double the speed it was, something like that. So when I saw Joe Daniels with this, he posted this video. I totally agree with him. There's gonna be a change eventually where you realize how much more you can get done, and it's just more intuitive to animate or do any sort of creation in 3D with a VR environment. It just makes more sense, especially for this idea of that you're manipulating with your hands. I mean, your input is a 6 degree of freedom input, as opposed to a 2D mapped interface, which is a mouse or a Wacom tablet. It cannot move on the depth axis. It can only move on the 2 axis, right? So having that in 2 times, because you have 2 hands, and both of them are moving in on the 6 degree of freedom, So, I mean, it's just obvious to me. I mean, I feel like that is going to evolve in a way. Um, and going back to visual development and stuff, I think it's already working. It's already, I already see VizDev artists working in VR first, and then translated that and exporting that for the 3D pipeline. So that's something that's already happening, and I feel like it's gonna get better, and as more artists are discover these new tools, you know.
Very cool. Thanks so much. That's such an in-depth response. I love that. Martin, is that helpful, or do you have any additional
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So next question, should universities be integrating VR into our curriculum, and how could it be integrated? I think that's a definite yes. I think that augmented and virtual reality, if you're not in this right now as a concept artist or as a 3D artist, even as someone working with tools, you are going to be left behind, just like 2D animators were left behind in the 90s. Still an industry there. You're still going to have a job, but the jobs are going to be greatly reduced. And so if you're going to be working with technology like 3D is, Photoshop, you're still going to have a job as a concept artist working in Photoshop. But the tools with AI now can take what a concept designer used to take a whole day or 2 days to work on, using AI and some integration with VR, even maybe not for a 2D concept, but integration with like these kit bashing stuff. Concept artists are now very much in 3D. And so as far as VR goes, you really need to, if you don't have a headset, the Oculus Quest, they just became available yesterday for the first time in 2 or 3 months. And so get one if you have the money, or a Rift S, or get a used Rift if you want. The S and the Quest are significantly better. There's various headsets out there, but really incredible opportunities. If you're not using it in university, get your professors to invest in this, because the other universities are going to pass you up. They're artists who are working these films. I remember when I was in school, it took us a year. There was like 30 or 40 of us. It took us a whole year to make a okay film. Like it wasn't great. We were students, but if we had done it in VR, we could have eliminated so much of the pipeline. Granted, it's a different style, but these tools, these opportunities for people are going to be endless. All right. I've talked way too much. All right. Andrew asked the question. Joe, does that help? Do you have any additional questions, Joe? Joseph? Sorry.
Hey, no worries, man. No, I think that's great. So do you think this is something our faculty is already aware of, or should we like bring this up?
Well, I think you should bring it up with your faculty, definitely. And other universities who have faculty who are working in the VR AR industry are going to understand that the immersive entertainment is going to take over, or actually kind of like esports. It doesn't eliminate sports. It's opening up a whole new field of opportunity, just like the 2D. So yeah, talk to your faculty. Maybe reach out to other faculty from other universities and find out, hey, are you guys using this, and how could we do it? Find a good use case that would be, helpful. I mean, for a university to drop $1,000 is not a big deal. All right. So how would you recommend students start using VR if resources are not available? I would say, I don't know if I have a good answer for that, other than yeah, I'm not sure. I guess maybe let's get a little bit of detail on that question. Oh, Andrew, which university are you coming from? You at BYU as well?
Yeah, I am. And I mean, I was typing that question as you're answering. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was typing that question as you were answering the previous question. I think that one answered it a little bit for me as well. I mean, just getting your hands on equipment and kind of diving in is
Cool. Rock on.
but yeah.
Jason asked, are there software packages to integrate VR animation? This is a great opportunity for CS people to create tools. There's, I think it's called VRist or VRARist. It's like a tool that some guy was like, hey, I'm going to make a tool with WebXR. I'm going to type that in. If you guys haven't seen WebXR, this is the future of the internet. That moves into my next topic. Definitely check that out. You can create your own software program pretty easily with drag and drop, even if you don't know coding. There's opportunities to create software. There's opportunities to use software that exists, like Quill is a major medium. There are so many. Just type VR software in Google and you'll get a plethora of options that will allow you to see that concept artist is moving this direction. And the coolest thing is that concept artists can now go from a storyboarder all the way to final animation. If you guys haven't seen what Daniel is in the group, if you look up his name, he created for Facebook this incredible comic, just out of this world. It's kind of like Ryan Woodward's Bottom of the Ninth that he made like 10 years ago or so, but like next level. So check that out. Daniel, do you have anything to add on that?
Thank you so much. I never heard of that reference, but I'll look it up actually.
Oh, okay, cool. Rock on.
Yeah, last year I worked on a short film / comic book VR experience. I wanted to mash those concepts together, comic book plus animation plus movie. I wanted to get all that stuff together into this VR experience. And I loved working on it, and I did the whole thing in one program, just on Quill, and it's just so empowering. It's so awesome to be able to say I made my own short film myself. Nobody else. I mean, I had a huge help from Facebook, obviously, in the technical side, and there were producers, and obviously they funded for me, so that was huge, and I wouldn't be able to do it without them, obviously. But the artistic side is all me. It's one artist. I created the storyboard, visual development, the animation, the script. I wrote it myself. The only thing I didn't do is all the sound aspect of it, sound design. The score was composed by one of the Facebook music composers. But it's just amazing to think about it. Like a super small team of people can get together and make a VR short film with this one single software, you know, and it's just wonderful. And it got a really good response. I really like the feedback that I've been getting, especially from people that work in the industry in animation. Yeah, I wanted to push the boundaries in terms of narrative, you know, storytelling, and I got hooked into this medium, and I want to do another one, but it's a little hard to keep working on this full time because I already have like a full-time job doing CG animation in with Maya, with all the other, you know, all the traditional methods. And it's cool. I love it, and it's been my job for many years. But I want to slowly transition my career into VR because I feel there's so much more potential, and it's so much more fun to create, honestly, and to animate.
Yeah, thanks so much for saying that.
Yeah,
Keep going.
No, I was just gonna do a quick shout out. Just check out the short film if you can. If you have a Oculus Quest, it's very easy to find. You just go to Oculus TV and then you scroll down and you'll find the Remedy. It's called.
It's really cool in VR, but it's even cool in 2D as well for people that don't have Quest.
Yeah, and if you don't have the Quest but you do have a Rift at home, the only thing you need to do is download Quill, which is the creation program. And inside of Quill, there is a player. There is a Quill Theater player. And inside of there, you can find a hub of a lot of animations that all the artists in the world are kind of uploading into this network. And it's really awesome to see all these animations created by people. And inside of the hub, you can find the Remedy as well, my short film. So go check it out. And also, yesterday was a new short film was released by Studio Cyro, which is a bunch of VR artists that I know them all. We are like a small community, and we all know each other. And they just released a new short film series as well. It's called The Tales of Soda Island. So go check that out as well. You're gonna be impressed.
It's incredible what they've done. Nick Ladd, what he's put together.
Nick Ladd, yeah.
So I'm actually on that note. We're gonna move on to a different topic right now.
Yep. Sorry.
No. You're totally fine. I was just saying for myself, just to not talk on this for much longer. Check out Quill, guys. Studio Cyro. Check it out. This is the business model that I'm using moving forward is remote studio, bringing all artists together, and we together are going to be creating short films, TV series, get them on Netflix for 2D stuff. And then for 3D stuff, it's going to be really, really interesting moving forward to see all the small studios popping up and competing with the big studios for way cheaper. Okay. Go ahead and keep typing your questions in the chat. I'm going to pay attention to that. And then if anybody, it looks like Alan had a question, we'll move on though with this and maybe your question will be answered. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys. So if you are looking, go ahead and check this out. All right. Can I just get a thumbs up from people? Can you guys see that? Okay. So this is called Sansar. This is made by the guys that made Second Life. So this is the future. This is where innovation is happening on every front. So if you guys have never been to a rave before, it's essentially like this immersive dome type experience where you're just immersed in this absolutely incredible entertainment kind of like experience. A rave isn't like, it doesn't have to use drugs. It's just like a place where like a DJ's playing. And so it's an incredible environment, and I highly recommend looking at this. This is the virtualization of concerts. So this is massive. Esports as well. I didn't pull any esports links up, but I think this is more exciting. 3D avatars. This is where massive innovation is happening right now. And so if you guys haven't seen The Wave or Sansar, these guys are opening up a whole new industry where there are opportunities galore. And feel free to reach out to me if I'd like to dive deep into that. This is the third one that I really would love to show you guys. This is actually 3D scans of real people, but they're using AI and machine learning to create things that have never been seen before. So this is the future. If you can imagine yourself as a virtual avatar, this is where everything is headed. Volumetric 3D recordings. We're now able to capture LiDAR on the new iPad. The AR glasses that are coming out within the next year or two will be able to capture LiDAR. Essentially, our world is going to be transformed into this virtualization, and it's very, very, very interesting. So it's Soul Machines, Wave, and Sansar. Check those out. I'm just going to keep going here. Let's see. Yes. So the innovation that's happening right now with VR, if you imagine like the companies that I just showed you, you can have it on a phone. You can have AR filters on Instagram, and you have the ability soon with AR glasses for consumers. If you can break into this market, in my opinion, it would be the equivalent of breaking into a studio like Pixar. There's a lot of startups right now that you can join and that you can create for. And most of the startups, more often than not, are actually these single person brands. So if you align yourself with an influencer who is, maybe, or a restaurant who doesn't have the know-how of where the industry is going in the next 3 to 5 years, then you can align yourself with them and serve them. So I like to think of sales as nothing more than service. And if you think of the innovation that's occurring with the VR software and the AR software, just look into it. If you haven't looked into it, just the opportunities are massive, and we're about to see it blow up. And I just want to make sure that I'm helping you guys out, because when I graduated, I was kind of underwhelmed with the technology, the progress, and I can see that it's capping out at these bigger studios. And you can still have those Brian's at Leica. You can still have those Leicas, and you can still have those studios, but we're going to see a massive opening into these new places. All right, let's move on to questions. So questions about digital avatars or virtual concerts or esports or anything, feel free to write them in the chat. All right, I'm going, if nobody's asking questions, go ahead and type them in. I'll just move on to spatial computing until we get some questions. So spatial computing. So imagine the computer that you have right now. You got a keyboard and you've got a 2D screen. Essentially with VR and AR, what happens is it's just a screen. When you put it on, it becomes a computer. So it's nice to have a physical keyboard still, but if you imagine 2 years from now, this is already happening with so spatial computing, like you have as many screens as you need, you're in a 3D environment, and now you are a part of the computer, and you get to pull in whatever you need. If you are the kind of UI person that likes to make UI, you can make UI. If you're a concept artist, you can use the tools that other people made to create things at lightning speed. And then the cloud computing, as spatial computing and cloud computing merge, essentially it eliminates the need for a computer. So now you just have a VR headset that is just tied into your internet connection, and you're actually tied into a computer, a server with pre-installed software on it at a studio, remote studio, and you're tying in directly. So the only thing you have is your keyboard. Even like you might not need that. It might be nice, but you have your keyboard, you have your VR headset, and you're just tied directly. That's a couple years from now. We're a couple years away from that, where we're going to be really in this new ball game where people in the Philippines and in China are going to be competing with you for these global projects. And so you got to start thinking outside the box of these smaller realms, and start, in my opinion, start thinking about the future of cloud computing merging with spatial, like literally like VR, spatial computing, and cloud computing coming together with AI. So now that AI is going to be as a tool for artists. I'm super passionate about this. I hope people have questions now about this. What questions do you guys have about AI or AR, VR? I'm going to move into blockchain next, and why the virtual economy is going to change all of our lives if we want it to. All right, I don't see any more questions. All right, here we go. Martin said, Martin, why don't you go ahead and ask your question again? Sorry, I should have done that before with all of you. I'm going to unmute you, Martin. Go ahead. Oops, I think I hit that.
I'm on. Yeah, so my question is just, are there things in daily production meetings that don't really transfer well to virtual meetings like this one? Because I know person-to-person interaction is really important between the artists and the directors and producers and everything. Are there difficulties that have been popping up already with virtual meetings like this one in that respect?
Yeah, I think with VR, one of the coolest things, if you haven't done social VR, it's essentially, it feels like you're there. It feels like you're in a new environment. I think it's called Verbella. I'm going to type it in the chat here. These guys, there's another one called Glue. These companies essentially allow for the dissolution of real estate. So we're going to see a big transition to these virtual environments. So, I hit the mic. Sorry, guys. The problems right now are definitely like some major technical hurdles. And like sometimes your audio won't work. Sometimes like you'll get kicked out of the meeting. Sometimes like your avatar will like do weird things or freeze up. And so the software's not there yet. The technical hurdles with the hardware, it's not there yet. But within the next couple of years, we will see this massive shift. And so I think as far as like meeting someone in person right now, like with this 2D communication, it's fine. You have your camera up and you're working and you can like have your virtual office space in a 2D. But if once you're in VR, you'll realize really quickly that now you have a whole new world where like if you're an environment designer, a 3D environment designer or concept artist, you're not confined to these boxes. You're now designing for 3D spaces where artists can jump to other desks. So you can actually go to a desk at a studio. So let's say you're not at Disney, you're not at one of these big studios, you're just at your house or you're at a local hub. So maybe you guys go to a small studio and you're working, but you're also working with bigger studios. So you're working at a bigger studio, but a hub. So like maybe like 5 artists will meet at this hub and you guys are together, but then instead of virtually communicating with 2D screens like this, which is very, I don't know about you guys, but it doesn't feel like I'm with you right now. It feels like you guys are on a screen. But as soon as I put on that VR headset, I'm with you. I'm in the same environment as you. And I feel like we're now collaborating on a whole new level. If you haven't experienced that, I highly recommend borrowing somebody's Quest or any headset that they have and doing social VR experiences, just so you can understand this is where Gen Z is going. All right. Any other questions? I feel like I'm talking too much. Who has something to add to the conversation?
I feel like I talk a lot too, but
No, go ahead, please.
I'm sorry.
You're an expert.
I have some experience in social VR. Back in the day, there was Facebook released this thing called Facebook Spaces. I don't know if you tried it before, but to me, it was an aha moment when I first tried Facebook Spaces. I mean, the avatars were really cartoony, like stylized characters and all that stuff. But it didn't matter to me because the hand motion of the characters talking to me, that was motion capture from my friend. So the hands were moving and talking at the same time and there's this visual, it's a human communication tool, like the hands, we use it all the time in person, not so much on this type of Zoom meetings. But when you're in person, you do use your hands a lot when you talk and you point at things and you do this kind of stuff. In VR, it really works because you can see those hands moving exactly as your friend, and also the head. The head is motion capture, right? So even though the character is completely cartoony and stylized, it's moving exactly as your friend would move when he talks. The head and the hands. And all these it's only 3 points of motion capture, right? But it's just enough, it's enough information to see that movement in real time of this person. And it really feels like you're connected and this person is communicating with you much better than with a video Skype session or something like that, right? There's still a lot to improve in those kind of VR social experience. For example, the facial expressions are not implemented very well right now. I think they use some sort of AI to determine whether you're smiling or not, but it's really hard for the hardware to know if you're smiling or not, or if you're laughing or not, or whatever face expression you're doing with your face, so to translate that into the avatar, right? So at the moment there is no way to do that, but I think Facebook and other companies are kind of investigating into technologies that allow you to map your face or something when you're wearing a headset, so it can determine whether you're smiling or not, or what kind of facial expressions you're doing in real time. So your avatar does that as well, because the face is such an awesome communication tool. It's the most natural communication tool that we have when we're talking in person, right? Your facial, your hands. So I think when they nail that, it's gonna be pretty seamless, and you're gonna have virtual meetings with a person in virtual reality, and it's gonna feel so real. I don't know. I'm super excited for that.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I'm really excited as well for these meetings, like Zoom meetings. Once enough people get into the headset, that's great. We're gonna be having these meetings until we get to that point, which might be 3 to 5 years from now, where a majority of you guys own headsets and we're having these virtual meetings where Facebook groups, you're not meeting, you're not typing a message, a comment to, you know, your group. You're saying, hey guys, let's meet up in 5 minutes, and or you'll record yourself saying, and your avatar will be recorded, and you'll see the innovation with the digital avatars, just how quickly things progress in the next few years. As far as right now, let's see, we got a question from Joseph. He said, what would be a great headset or hand tools to start out with? I mean, I think if you guys don't have a Quest or a friend with a Quest and you've never used a Quest, you should probably go try out a Quest, because it's only $400. I'm pretty sure Facebook's losing about $400 every headset that they sell, because these things are not like this. These are way better. I think what Facebook is trying to do is they're trying to lose, kind of like what PlayStation 3 I think did. They lost money on every unit that they sold because they knew they'd make it back in the game revenue. And so get your hands on a Quest, because the software that's out there right now is really incredible. Let's see. Yeah, I would say the Quest. I'm not sure as far as software. Okay, so Tyler kind of moves this forward. Out of the programs, Tyler, why don't you go ahead and ask your question so I can see you.
So yeah. So out of the programs you mentioned, which ones were available on the Quest again? I know you mentioned like Quill.
Yeah, it's Quill and Quill's actually not available on the Quest unless you have a computer with a fast enough GPU.
Yeah,
And so you have to hook it into your computer. But I mean, those computers like a $500 maybe. So your total setup's about $1,000 still to use Quill.
right.
I think you'll make that back once you do your first couple paid projects.
Yeah.
But Tilt Brush is available on, and Gravity Sketch. I would highly recommend checking out Gravity Sketch.
Okay.
It's a 3D design. What else is available? Who else knows what's available on the Quest?
Tilt Brush is on the Quest.
Yeah, so Tilt Brush, and then it's social VR. There's like Big Screen, Alt Space, and then Rec Room. And these companies are going to need designers as well. And so you don't just have to focus on the influencers or the people that are, that are still having income coming in. You can brand yourself to work as a sole artist, in between jobs or whatever. You can brand yourself to work for these people. Let's see, Daniel, you said, at Daniel. Okay, so Tyler, why don't you ask your question to Daniel? Sorry.
Yeah. So I don't know. This may be a dumb question, but how does drawing in 3D space feel? Does that? I mean, how does it feel more natural?
It's very difficult. It's very difficult. I assume you come from you're a storyboarder, right? So you draw traditionally like on digital tablets or paper, right?
Right.
It's very hard to switch your brain, because I myself, I've been drawing all my life in paper or digital tablets, and you always have that kind of surface that stops your hand from moving on inside of the screen, right, or inside of the paper. You have a two-dimensional limitation on your hand, but it's never been a limitation because the first thing you learn when you learn how to draw is perspective, right? And when you draw perspective in a piece of paper, suddenly you understand the 3 dimensions in the paper, and you know how to trick the audience to think, oh, this is not a paper, this is not a 2D space anymore, this has depth, right? So that's important. That's why it's so important to learn how to draw with perspective, and that eventually allows you to draw much more complicated things. But perspective is really, really crucial to learn how to draw properly. But when you draw in VR, you don't need to learn perspective really, because everything you're drawing is already on perspective. Everything it's already on a 3D space. So if I did a video once, I would like to share it, but I don't know where it is. But it's basically, if you draw a cube in VR, you're actually drawing the cube, the three dimensions of the cube. You're not making a false point of vanishing point, and you're not making the lines of the cube vanish into that point. You're not faking the 3 dimensions, because you are in 3 dimensions. And it's really hard. It's really hard for your brain to switch. It took me a long time to switch. I mean, I was drawing in VR, but I was still doing perspective tricks. And then, but I feel like it's once you get it, it's really liberating. It's just, you have this huge canvas that's completely limitless, and your hand can move your hand can move anywhere. It doesn't, you don't have a surface that stops your hand from moving when you draw. So at the end of the day, I feel like I get more creative stuff when I draw in VR than when I draw in a traditional way. I mean, I still draw in a traditional way to get some ideas quickly, to get like a thumbnail or something, because I'm so used to it. I draw like this all my life. This is how I learned how to draw, right? But it's so much pleasure to just sketch in VR. It's really, really cool to be able to add that third dimension as you're sketching. It's
more ergonomic, like easier on like your back and wrist, like drawing in VR.
Yeah. Ergonomic wise, I feel much better than when I draw on a tablet or whatever, because I can sit like this. I can just be really comfortable, and just I move my scene to whatever comfort that I need, because Quill and any other program that you're gonna use allows you to scale the scene. You don't have to draw at the right size. You can draw at any size you want. You can draw a miniature detail, but if you scale your scene, it doesn't matter. You can make this, and then you scale it back, and it's gonna be miniature again. You know what I mean? Like it's not limited in that sense. So you can be in any postures that you want. You do get tired on your arm. That's the reality of things, because you're not leaning. When you draw traditionally, you have the surface and you rest your hand on the surface. But in VR, you don't have anywhere to rest, so
artists are going to start looking like muscle.
I developed some muscle here because you're holding your hand on the 3D space. What I do have is I have this really good chair that has the elbow cushions, and I really recommend having those because it helps to relax your elbows a little bit. So your arm gets some rest, and then you go back to drawing and just rest a little bit. And
it's sort of like when you're using your. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No.
We have about 2 minutes left. I was just going to add, like, it's sort of like when you were learning how to figure draw. You're using your whole arm, like
exactly.
that. But instead of like in just these dimensions, it's like when you're animating in Quill, you do this, and then you hit the animation play button, and it animates the lines the same speed that you drew it in, if that makes sense. So you're
and
almost
there's
like
something
a
magical about it.
performer. It's really, really interesting, especially if you're expressive. There's a bunch more questions. I just want to wrap up here for those of you who are going to leave right now at 11 or 12 p.m. Mountain Time and 11. Thank you so much, you guys. I think there's a whole world of opportunities. If you haven't seen like what's out there, just be creative. Feel free to reach out to me. I have a ton of information that I could give you. I could throw together a PDF. I'm probably going to do that based on the questions that we got here. I do want to just end by saying thank you for coming. I will answer these other questions for those of you who do want to stay. If you ask the question, you can leave. Feel free to leave, but feel free to stay for the next 15 minutes. I'm going to be here. So thank you for coming. And I hope that this has at least sparked some imagination of new opportunities, that this lockdown and this transition from 3D to VR and AR is not going to eliminate your job. AI is not going to eliminate your job. It's only going to add more opportunities. So you just gotta, the money's out there. You just gotta get your hands on it. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll go ahead and end there, and then feel free to peace out. Throw up a peace sign if you're going to go. And then if you're going to stay, we'll go ahead and answer the rest of these questions in the next 15 minutes.
I don't mind sticking up for a little bit more.
Cool. Well, we'll go ahead. Let's see. Andrew said, how do we find jobs? And then Joseph, are you still here? Joseph, are you sticking around? Did you want to ask your question?
I'll stick around. Are we addressing Andrew's question first?
We'll go back to Andrew's question. Go ahead and ask yours, and then we'll go back.
Okay. So I'm curious to know if feature productions or TV productions are going to be contained to just 2D viewing, or will artists throughout the pipeline have to start planning for different viewing angles?
Yeah, if you've seen a lot of like what Lucasfilms, I believe, or LucasArts, one of those, is doing like what they did on Mandalorian. I think we're gonna start seeing volumetric capture is a good example, where you do have to kind of plan for multiple cameras, and then CG is going to be a little bit the same. But I think if you work in a VR 3D software, you can kind of switch your view. I think our minds kind of have to make a shift. I think right now we're going to be limited to that 2D plane as long as we have those devices. But if you look into augmented reality, we're going to start having experiences in home, so that's not limited by the screen. So, you know, on your phone or on your computer, you will be able to have these experiences where you're going to have to take into account these other angles. And if you're working on a visual effects project, you're definitely going to have to take into account, kind of like how we've moved up to 4K. It takes forever to get a render back. You're going to have to take into account these other angles as well. But I think if you're working in the 3D software to start with, it's going to make things a lot easier. Does that kind of answer the question, or would you have anything to add on to that?
No, I think you addressed it pretty well. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Daniel, maybe you can answer Andrew's question. Andrew, do you want to ask your question and maybe Daniel can chime in?
Yeah, it's kind of a vague and broad question, I understand, but as a student, like, I've been able to find little jobs here and there that I've been able to help with, whether it's modeling or doing small things for companies around town. And in terms of VR, like, this is really the first time I've heard anything in terms of like possibilities in terms of VR. And so I guess more as like a student, is there a way, or is there even a market out there to reach out to these small studios and help in small ways? Does that make sense?
I'm not. There is a Facebook group that we have and for VR artists. I recommend you to hang out on that Facebook group and check out what the people is doing. And there's a job board as well, where some people are posting job offerings and job opportunities related, specific to VR art. So eventually somebody will post, oh, they need a Tilbrush artist in London or in New York or whatever. So I've seen some of those postings, but obviously I don't follow constantly because I'm doing other things. But I recommend you to hang out on that Facebook group and check out the job announcements.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. The opportunities right now might feel limited with VR, but if you look at what Unreal Engine 5, like what they just did, if you look at real-time engine opportunities, this is where a lot of studios are going to start moving to this GPU. I mean, it's inevitable that every studio is going to be rendering with GPUs because they're so much more powerful. And so if you can't see anything in VR, at least get your hands dirty with the real-time stuff. And Andrew, do you work with real-time at all? I'm going to unmute you.
Your last sentence cut out.
Oh, do you work with real-time software already?
I've done a little bit here and there, but not a huge amount.
Okay. I'm going to mute you just because I hear a little background noise. Yeah, I think if you haven't, if I didn't address this, I should have addressed this with a larger group, but real-time software is the thing. So if you're used to hitting render and waiting for something to come back, those days are going to be eliminated rather quickly. And so if you imagine, as far as like finding a job, if you're not keeping up with the software as the tools replace artists. So if you look at something like Substance Painter, and you compare that to Mari, Substance Painter in a big way was way better than Mari. I mean, Mari still can handle more, but it took so much longer to do something in Mari than it did in Substance. And then if you look at when I started, at least shading back in like 2011, I was using Photoshop and I had to plug a flash drive in to my computer. And then I had to switch it because we only had Photoshop I'd like plug in a flash drive, get the software, plug it into a different computer to transfer before we had Drive, like before we had Google Drive and Dropbox. Before that was like a big thing. And if you think of software as pretty much use software to leverage software as it eliminates jobs. For example, DreamWorks had like 46 shading artists in 2013. And I think now they must have like 6 or something. So look for the brand new software and find out how is that going to eliminate my job, especially with AI. Research AI, research how you can add value to companies in that regard. And maybe just don't limit yourself to just the big studios, because the chance of you getting into a big studio, I mean, they're very slim, and these big studios are already they have a surplus of artists. And they're moving forward. The software is going to continue to eliminate those jobs. So look for these newer studios that are going to bounce up really quickly, kind of like Illumination did. They just kind of came out of nowhere and started taking over because they're using software that Disney and Pixar spent so much money developing. So now they're just to their advantage.
Yeah, in terms of rendering, the big companies are very conservative, so they are not ready to move into real-time rendering. So I wouldn't suggest to try to go to a huge company like Disney or Pixar or DreamWorks, because they have their own solutions for rendering and they invested a lot of money, like you said, on them. So it's yeah, I totally agree. It's much better to shoot for smaller companies that are willing to experiment and to innovate, I think Pixar they are doing something with real time, but I think it's their own solution. They don't want to deal with Unreal or Unity, or they don't want to deal with other companies to use a rendering solution in real time. So yeah, so for legal reasons or whatever, they just don't want to get into that. So it's much better to experiment with like a smaller studios or even video game companies or VR startups and things like that they're much more willing to explore and innovate.